All cattle, no hat, welcome back. We are on part 2 of Article 1 of the Constitution. This video will be a little bit longer, but as we proceed into the future videos, we will be doing smaller videos anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes that will highlight specific subjects of the fundamentals. So again, this video, as part 1 it is a requirement. The other videos will be a little bit more digestible, but this is really a requirement for the series. It's like the first chapter in a textbook, and you really have to read the first chapter, because if you don't read it, then you're gonna kind of get lost about what chapter 7, 8, 9, 15 are all about. So really it's just an introductory portion of the Constitution. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and just get into it. A brief history of competitive CoD. Call of Duty Competitive is often referred to as CoD Comp or just Comp. It consists of a small subsection of the player base. These players compete online and in tournaments while adhering to a specialized set of rules. The earliest competition dates back to CoD 2. At this time, players competed privately in online matches between clans against one another. The foundations of competitive CoD scene were established in 2007 with the release of CoD 4. This game defined what competitive CoD would look like for the foreseeable future. Unknown to most of the core player base, this game would begin to develop a competitive identity. With custom classes and a refined rule set, a version of the game trimmed of randomness was being created. A website called Game Battles helped facilitate players to compete regularly. Many of the same rules, game modes, weapons, utility, and perks are still used to this day. The usage of assault rifles, submachine guns, snipers, frag and stun grenades became a staple for all future games. They have been the core playstyle that all metas have been built around. Most games throughout this series have had 3 modes as the standard for competition. Many modes have come and gone for the second and third spot, but only one mode has remained. Search and Destroy, or S&D, has been played every year since 2007. It is the only game mode that will never be removed. A famous saying within the community is Search and Destroy wins championships, as it's always the final game played in a series. It's played last due to it being the most competitive mode. Hardpoint has been the second game mode every year since 2012. This mode will likely not get replaced either. Throughout the years, hundreds of thousands of players have competed in online matches. Thousands of tournaments have been held online and in person, giving players invaluable experiences. People from all over the world have traveled to hundreds of LAN tournaments to compete in person for money. Once per year, a peak tournament is held that's more important than all others that season. Prior to 2013, this tournament would be called the National Championship. From 2013 onward, the tournament would be called the World Championship. Some of these tournaments were held online, but most have been held in person on LAN. There have been dozens of players who have won either a National Championship or a World Championship. Only a handful have won a championship more than once. The community has had hundreds of professional players throughout the years. Some have only played professional for a year, and others have played for over a decade. The community has had to adapt every year to the game, as CoD is an annual release. New rules must be created, tested, set, and played throughout the year in order to create the most competitive game possible. There's often disagreement on which rules should be implemented, but typically the most competitive rules that promote the highest skill gap will be used. Every competitive scene has its own unique player base, and CoD is without exception. The community is passionate with a touch of pessimism. They are prideful with a big scoop of arrogance. They act like they are the best in the game because deep down, they believe it to be true. Cockiness infects every player like a virus, as there is nothing quite like winning a gunfight that you had no chance of taking in the first place. There is just something about this game that brings out the absolute best and worst in people.
Like the Call of Duty, we're like the 60 IQ, just absolutely morons having the time of our lives, because ignorance is bliss. We're all stupid, and we're like the definition of a bro. Now, I know being a bro has not been the cool thing in the last, few years because of these damn libs. But, the Call of Duty boys are just like same sense of humor, just degenerates. So I've been having a lot of fun with COD lately. It's good to play with my boys that I kind of grew up with and stuff.
Community engagement. Getting involved in this scene can be overwhelming at first. Where should I go to learn more about the game? How can I stay involved within the community? How do I start my journey to competing? With so many different outlets to receive information, how should you decide which to use? Over the years, some of the mediums to these questions have changed and some haven't. Websites to compete on have varied over the past 2 decades. Places to get information like YouTube or X have stayed relatively the same. YouTube. A little known history is how much of an effect COD had on YouTube's success. YouTube would still have had a similar amount of success with or without COD. The specific point of history that I'm referring to is the start of posting gaming videos. The popularity of gaming videos from 2007 to 2012 on YouTube can largely be attributed to COD. With each game lasting roughly 10 minutes, watching people play video games on YouTube replaced watching cartoons on TV. In the beginning, it was mostly gameplay commentaries. Players eventually started recording clips to be used for montages. These were all relics of the past, but don't underestimate their usefulness. There are thousands of hours of videos for past events, matches, tutorials, tips, tricks, and countless other ways you can use to improve your game readily available. YouTube should be thought of as the digital library for you to study. Watching great players throughout history are good ways of improving. There are also COD competitive channels and podcasts that can be useful to know what's going on within the scene. Twitch. Twitch is the best place to watch players compete live. There is always a tournament, wager match, or scrimmage going on between the hundreds of players who are currently streaming the game live. You can have a more personal interaction with the streamer here. The main difference between YouTube and Twitch is like listening to a song versus going to a concert. If you were going to try to learn a song on guitar, you could listen to the song over and over as many times as you want to try to dissect each section of the song. If you go to a concert, you're more there for the experience. You're able to pick up specific things that they're doing on stage which can't be done otherwise. Twitch is better for understanding what's happening within the moment. It's more helpful with processing the game similar to when you were actually playing. X, previously Twitter, has been a platform that's been widely used by the competitive community for years now. You can find discussions about the game and current issues or topics. The community has often been compared to the WWE with its endless drama and storylines. X is where you'll see all of that unfold first. It's the first place that you read news about the game, tournaments, and events. Players have also used X to find teammates and scrimmages to practice tournaments. You see a little bit of everything here. X is the jack of all trades, master of none. Reddit. This is where you'll find the highlights of the community. Any relevant information and topics posted on X will find its way here shortly. While tournaments are happening, discussion peaks in the subreddit. While the website allows for more meaningful discussion to happen, it's rare that anything worthwhile is ever talked about here. Occasionally you'll find a post with substance, but it's few and far between. Reddit is the front page of the COD scene. If you want an overview of what's happening within the scene on any given day in the r/competitive COD subreddit, this is where you'll find it. Discord. There are a few active Discords that provide community engagement within the scene. Most provide an outlet to compete, some provide news, updates, help finding teammates, or general community engagement. A select few will provide all of these. Most organizations or leagues will have their own Discord. It's usually not worth your time to try to find teammates or compete here because of their inactivity. I wouldn't completely discredit these as options, but it wouldn't be my first choice. Websites. The community was originally centered around online match scheduling websites like Game Battles. Unfortunately, Game Battles shut down in January of 2024. This was one of the saddest days within the community that has ever happened since 2007. This website, along YouTube, were the most important factors besides the game itself for its growth and success. Game Battles is where it all started for the first waves of players. It was the one-stop shop for competitive COD players and for any popular game at that time. You could schedule matches, play in free or paid tournaments, and grind with your team up the leaderboard. There were active forums with people searching for teammates or talking about the game. While you competed on the website, you could earn points and qualify for Major League Gaming tournaments. Major League Gaming, or MLG, was a company that hosted tournaments and operated Game Battles. There have been other competitive websites, but nothing has held up to Game Battles. There were similar websites to Game Battles over the years, such as NX Gamers, 360 Icons, and UMG. These were past sites that had their own meaningful place within the community. The only current websites that I'm aware of that allow you to compete are Checkmate Gaming and ESPORTS Agent. How active these websites are is more of a reflection of the scene itself and not the website. Beyond competing, there are other sites such as Breaking Point. Here you'll get updates on anything competitive, whether it's professional statistics, informational content, or news. The main issue with websites is that no matter how good the site is, it's almost entirely dependent on the community. Participating. There are multiple avenues you can take to start participating in the scene. Some are more directly involved within the game, and others are further behind the scenes. While everyone plays the game, the idea of competing may not be an option. Typically, younger players want to compete, and as they get older, this part of their life gets backseated. The desire will always be there, but other priorities such as having a career or a family will make itself more important. This is where becoming an analyst, coach, organization owner, or caster provides an opportunity to branch off from competing. This is a natural transition for many players who get older. They don't have the time to put hours each day into playing the game just to maintain their skill level. They still want to be involved in the scene, but can't compete at that level anymore. The great part about participating behind the scenes is that you get to be more creative in how you make this goal happen. Analyst. Analysts have been used since roughly the 2016 season. Their main use is to gather data and statistics from professional matches and make meaningful insights from them. This means that they turn all the data into information that can be used by professional teams in order to help win. Analysts could have been around before the 2016 season, but the main issue is that the data wasn't publicly available. Large companies have been tracking data for decades, but having their data publicly available within a video game was just a daydream. Could they have provided thorough data for older games? Yes, they absolutely could have. This wasn't seen as worth their time though. As time passed, this data became more available. Analysts have since taken this data and changed the way people approach the game. Being an analyst is a role that will require the most technical skills for you to be successful. You have to ask yourself, what problems are you trying to solve? Then, you'll work with the data by cleaning, preparing, and analyzing everything that you've done. After that, you'll visualize your work so that you can share your findings with others. You'll need to know at least these basics of being a data analyst. You'll also need to know how to code in at least one coding language. This is because when working with more complex data, you can't just use a spreadsheet. There's a lot of prior learning you must do in order to just be competent. It's not for everyone, but it's highly rewarding when done well. I'll link below a video that explains in more depth on how you can become an esports analyst. Casting. Casting live matches has been around since COD 4. Early on, there was usually 1 or 2 casters who would cast an entire tournament. That was the best case scenario because sometimes there was only one. The scene has grown to have many casters casting throughout the course of a tournament, sometimes alternating between games to give each other a break. Other times they may only just cast the games, and then there are other casters at the analyst desk. Whether it be the side stages, alternating between matches, or at the grand finals, many different casters will make an appearance throughout the tournament. There isn't a direct path into casting as everyone got their different ways. If this interests you, I would start by casting smaller matches. First, focus on improving your skills and getting comfortable covering games. You'll need to cast as many games as possible because that's the only way that you're going to get good. Coaching. Coaching in COD was not popular towards the beginning of the competitive scene. As the scene grew, it increased the desire for coaching. COD coaches have traditionally not been seen as very useful. The work that coaches do now is work that the players used to do themselves. Things such as coming up with strategies and reviewing past gameplays. While these are all things that players could still do, it divides the responsibility amongst the team. The workload and the amount of pressure applied to the players is decreased because of the coach. A discussion has become on whether or not this makes professional players lazy, and I think it's a fair point being made. Whether or not that is the case, the coaches are still providing a use to the team. The only main requirement of being a coach is being highly knowledgeable of the game. It's not a requirement to be good at the game, but at some point, you probably should have been. Competing. Competing in Call of Duty takes place in 2 formats, online and in tournaments. To compete online means that you're going to be playing with other players online through either a scheduled match website or through a scheduling the match manually. This is going to be 99.9% of the way that you will compete. You will typically be playing in a match online, a wager match, or an 8th session. Online matches are played for experience points, XP, on an online ladder. With this ladder, you may qualify for a tournament, earn prize money, or hold a high-ranking spot that's considered to be prestigious. Online matches can also be a part of a scheduled league, which are played regularly throughout the season. These aren't that popular anymore though, since game battles shut down. Wagers are online matches that are played for money. Some are even played for small amounts such as $1 or $2, and others have been played for hundreds or even thousands of dollars in total. These are seen to be more competitive since there is money on the line. Even wagers for small amounts can still be highly competitive. They bring a newfound meaning to the match that wasn't present in regular online matches. Playing in 8s lobbies refers to 8 players playing in a match together who are all split up randomly or teams picking players. If you are randomly assigned to a team, then you must work together against another randomly assigned team. If there are team captains, then each team captain will pick one player, alternating until there are no players remaining. There is also a version of 8s called Money 8s, which is a form of a wager. These lobbies are typically held by a smaller subsection of the competitive community who regularly play together. This could be at the pro or amateur level. Since the teams are random, they try to only play with people who they know will pay and play well. Tournaments can be entered for free or by paying a fee depending on the type of tournament. Paid tournaments usually have a larger prize pool and are taken more seriously. There's nothing wrong with entering into a free tournament though. The small, free online tournaments are great for getting practice in a tournament environment. Any tournament in person is called a local area network, or LAN for short. Local LAN tournaments are referred to as locals. These are in-person events that can help you prepare for playing in different environments. The competition can be more intense and the prize pool is usually larger. With hours of driving, you can find a few locals near you each year. Finally, there are major LAN tournaments. These are where dozens or even hundreds of teams enter to compete. Players are flying from all over the country and even the world. This is the peak tournament experience that everyone prepares for. Organizations. Clans turned into teams and teams turned into organizations. Starting or working for organization is a way that you can get involved on a macro scale. This is not something that is a first option for people. It's especially not even considered an option for those who are just entering the scene. Only the most experienced people who have an immense knowledge about the community and its culture could even hope to find success within this route. To be able to properly run an organization, you must treat it as more than a full-time job. It's essentially a company that you are employed at every position. In theory, it's a great option, but only a few people have been able to make it work over the years. Working for an organization is the route I'd advise most people to head towards rather than starting one. Even getting your foot in the front door here is extremely difficult. If you did, you could assist with internal team needs, content, or other various jobs that need to be done. There's always content creators in general that are looking for good video editors. This is probably the best way to be a part of an organization as your work is able to be showcased. Historically, most of the organizations have fizzled out in less than 5 years. I wouldn't recommend this route to most people. Getting started. At this point, you're probably ready to start competing. There's only one problem. What exactly are the next steps that you need to take? The answer to this question is actually quite simple. Just play. Just play. This may seem like an odd thing to start off with, but many people get anxiety when competing. I'll speak from personal experience about how competing has impacted me. I used to be so nervous that I could feel my body physically tense up. It would become so intense that I would begin shaking. It felt like someone was grabbing my stomach and twisting it. I was always so confused as to why this was happening. Physically, I was a wreck, but mentally, I was completely fine. All I was doing was playing COD, which is something I had done for thousands of hours. I wasn't feeling this way 10 minutes ago, so what had changed? Well, I'll tell you what changed. Pressure. Pressure was applied and the stakes were being raised. Just 10 minutes ago, we were playing in a scrim, but now we were entering the first round of a tournament. I hadn't realized how much this affected me until later in life when I experienced the same symptoms when competing again. I only then made the connection that I had extreme level of stress and anxiety associated with competing. Now that we've laid out this huge issue that some people face, what can be done about it? Besides some mental exercises, the best thing you can do is just play. You need to frequently put yourself in this environment in order to become comfortable within it. This is essentially giving yourself exposure therapy by putting yourself in similar situations until they become familiar. The main reason that I'm telling you this is that this is the advice I wish someone had told me. There was a lot that I missed out on because of this. I only competed in at best 5% of the total game battles or tournaments that I could have because of the fear of feeling this way. I missed out on so much fun from competing that I wish I could get back, but I can't. If you get nervous or anxious while competing, my best advice for you is to just play. Those feelings should work themselves out eventually. Whether it be ranked, online matches, 8s, or a tournament, it's natural to feel this way. What exactly is making you feel this way? Are you nervous about performing poorly? Well, newsflash, you are. You're going to do so bad that you'll shut the game off afterwards. Losing is a part of the game and you just have to accept it. In order to get really good, you have to lose a lot. Playing CompCod at high levels is the same as playing any other game at a high level. You will get punished for making mistakes. Your aim must be near perfect or else you will lose that gunfight. Your decision making and timing must be on point or else you will fall behind in game. You are going to lose and that's okay. It's the part of the game, so get used to it. Be proud to lose because you know you've just earned the opportunity to actually learn something. Have the mindset that losing is a good thing. It won't feel great in the moment, but long term, it's essential. Don't let that competition anxiety get to you. Just play. Finding a team. Finding a team is an area that's not so cut and dry. The simple answer is that you can find people to team with on X, Discord, or through mutual connections. It's so much more complicated than this though. Just because you find a group of 3 players who are looking for one more doesn't mean that they want to play with you. There are questions that any decent player will ask before deciding to team with you. How good of a player are you? What sort of prior experience do you have? A variety of reasons can make someone want or not want to team with you. To figure this out, it can be as simple as just shooting someone a message. The worst they can do is say no. It's usually not as straightforward as that though. The most important factors that you should consider are in order as follows. Number 1. Your teammates have a similar schedule as you. If you can't play at the same times of day, then you can't play. Number 2. You and your teammates are roughly the same skill level. There will always be a variance in skill levels, but it's important to be of a similar skill. If one player is vastly better than the other 3 players, then they may want to find a better team. In their mind, those 3 players could be holding them back. On the other hand, if there's one player who's far worse than the rest of the team, then they are likely holding the rest of the team back. Number 3. Having aligned goals is important for the long-term journey that you will be on with your teammates. If one player wants to go professional, but another player is only playing as a hobby, then that's an issue. Eventually, you will run into a fork in the road when interests aren't aligned. Number 4. How do the personalities mesh between players? Do you share the same mindset about how the game should be played? The team chemistry between players is a very important factor that determines the future success that the team will have. Playing with the right people. Everything that I just mentioned is a requirement for finding teammates. What I'm about to mention isn't a requirement, but it's still highly advised. You can overlook these negative qualities, but they still have an impact on the team's environment. COD players have the largest ego amongst any esports. I have a personal belief as to why this is the case. I believe it's due to the nature of the game. It's a team game, but the emphasis on individual skill is more prevalent than any other esport. It doesn't help that when you combine this and the fact that most players are cocky males within the age range of 18 to 24, this allows for their egos to be inflated to a very problematic level. Players are unable to accurately look at a game state or their own gameplay. It's difficult for them to accept responsibility for their mistakes, which prevents them from improving. These types of players are incredibly difficult to team with. COD players are also very toxic, but how they're toxic has changed over the years. The traditional type of toxicity was that of the Xbox 360 time period. Rampant verbal abuse, PrimePete screeching sounds, and the accusations of one's maternal figure being a lady of the night are all memories of the past. The way that players are toxic today is through willful ignorance. I will have to give the players some credit as this is only partially their fault. The game doesn't require much of a learning curve to play. This is unlike the other top esports being played today. COD is a casual game that's being played competitively. Other games are built with the idea of being played competitively first. When you have a game with a high initial learning curve, it attracts more intelligent players. It also naturally alienates those who refuse to learn the game. On the other hand, when you have a game with a low learning curve, it may not keep the interest of more intelligent players. If anyone can easily play, then what you are left with is the least intelligent player base overall. This is a very generalized and subjective view, but there's some truth to it. Doing this creates a toxic culture of willful ignorance. If you want further proof of this, just look at the culture of StarCraft, League of Legends, and Valorant. They all have their own issues, but willful ignorance isn't one of them. Most players who play these games at a high level actually want to find the best possible solution. Now, whether or not they agree on what's the best is a different issue. I am completely convinced the majority of the competitive COD players and professionals suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect. Now that we have all of this covered, what are the exact qualities that you should look to avoid in a teammate? I personally would try to avoid playing with someone who Number 1, yells or screams at your team in or out of game. There is absolutely nothing positive that's going to be accomplished by doing this. Number 2, is consistently rude or disrespectful towards anyone on your team. If there's problems coming up where players can't treat each other respectfully, that's extremely concerning. How are you going to be able to rely on each other in game? Number 3, their ego becomes problematic. It's one thing to be confident, but a misguided ego is going to cause more underlying issues than you'd expect. Number 4, trash talking excessively. It's part of the game, and I don't think there's anything too inherently wrong with it. My biggest problem is when it starts to affect the team in and out of game. Now, I know that I've just eliminated 95% of the population from the player pool. Remember though, these are just suggestions and that players are humans. We all have faults and they will come out while playing. Players can have one or even all of these qualities, but at what point does it become a problem? It's advised that you try to find players who don't share these qualities. I am also a realist and I know that doing so is like finding a unicorn. It will, however, make the time that you spend playing more worthwhile if you find people like this. At the end of the day, we choose to play COD Comp because we think it's fun. That's my whole point behind finding teammates and playing with the right people. If you only have fun by winning, then you should find people who also care about winning. Being in an extremely negative environment while playing will not increase your chances of winning. You want to be able to trust your teammates in game. So why would you play with someone who behaves like this? Finding your current skill level. It's important to find out where you fall on the skill spectrum. The reason why finding your current skill level is important is it gives you a starting point from where you need to improve. What prior experience do you have with COD? Are you new to the competitive scene or even a new player? Do you have any prior experience with any other games? These are some of the questions that you need to first answer to gauge where you stand. To avoid the Dunning-Kruger effect, it's better to rank yourself lower rather than higher. It's not hard to become better than the 40-year-old father of 4 who plays only on the weekends. It is, however, very difficult to get anywhere near the level of a professional. You need to find your current skill level to begin improving. Accurately assessing your skill level. There are a few ways that you can accurately judge how good of a player you are without actually playing the game. The first step is to look at pro player settings. This may sound confusing, but check and see how many of your settings differ from theirs. This is an easy first indicator that you have a lot to learn about the game. About 95% of all the settings are constant, meaning that they will apply to every player. If your settings don't mostly match theirs, then start by changing them so that they do. Settings hold a higher importance for being able to play correctly. Imagine trying to play football in cowboy boots. Sure, the boots look nice, but it's not practical for them circumstances. That last 5% of your settings are personal preference. Even within the last 5%, there are some general rules and guidelines you can follow to be more efficient. The next way I would say that you can assess your skill is by watching other professional players. How far off is your gameplay from theirs? How much faster are they when they move around the map compared to you? How quickly and efficiently are they killing other players? Once you are able to recognize that a gap exists, you can work on closing that gap. Learn how to analyze what they are and aren't doing differently from you. Try to figure out what you need to do in order to improve. As you get more familiar with the skill from a wide range of players, you'll start to figure out where exactly you stand skill-wise. Just as watching good players can help you, watching bad players can be equally informative. Watching players who are making very obvious mistakes gives you an understanding of how bad these mistakes are compared to you. Watching others is the best overall way to assess your own skill level. Overall rating 1 to 100. Imagine that skill-based matchmaking didn't exist for a moment. Let's say that we wanted to accurately judge how good of a player someone is. We can do that by ranking players on a scale from 1 to 100, with 100 being the best. This rating would theoretically calculate their overall skill through a number of important gameplay factors. I would say that the competitive community would rank somewhere between 98 to 100. This is quite conservative rating considering that the comp player base is less than 1% of the total player base. It's probably closer to 0.0001%, but we'll just say 1% for simplicity purposes. Most players who play this game do so casually and have no concept of anything more advanced than sprinting, aiming, and shooting. I'm not trying to insult the casual community, but that's just the truth. COD is a casual game, and even saying that players properly move and aim is a bit of an exaggeration. The point of this rating is to get an idea of how much better the average comp player is compared to the average casual player. Competitive rating 1 to 100. The competitive rating is completely different from the overall rating. The point of this rating is to place players on a spectrum who already play comp COD. You're skimming the cream off the top and ranking that instead of the player base as a whole. These ratings are entirely subjective as there is no way to assign a player a rating. For all of the pro players, I would rate them somewhere between 95 and 100. When it comes to a 99 or 100 ranking, I would reserve that for truly the elite players in the game. Most professional players would sit around the 96 to 98 range. The top amateurs and ex-pros would likely fall in the 90 to 95 range. Most serious players who often play and in a competitive environment would fall in the 70 to 90 range. Players who only play ranked would fall in the 60 to 70 range. Anything below 60 would be players learning how to play comp. For reference, the gap between 1 and 60 is not nearly as large as the gap between 95 and 100. The higher of a rating someone has, the more difficult it is to improve. Every action needs to be refined to its most optimal execution in order to succeed at higher levels. Again, these ratings are subjective and are meant to give perspective. Your rank doesn't matter. The implementation of skill-based matchmaking or engagement-optimized matchmaking along with hidden MMR in ranked is problematic. It has completely removed any value of the rank itself. To summarize this issue, with the implementation of these matchmaking systems, the concept of rank is irrelevant. A rank is supposed to be an accurate judgment of your skill level as a player. Unfortunately, the game ignores this. It will put you with who it thinks you should play based on past performances rather than rank. With how the recent rank systems work, this means that bronze level players could play against literal world championships. This isn't an exaggeration either because your rank is largely determined on your playtime. I know this sounds crazy, but with how the rank resets at the end of the season, this is possible. As long as SBMM and hidden MMR is in the game and in ranked, this will continue to be a problem. I will link below a video that explains the problem in much more detail, but I highly encourage you watch the whole thing. Mindset for learning. The mindset you have every time you hop on the game will affect how effectively you learn. Being negative, blaming others, and making excuses will never get you anywhere in the game nor in life. You must play with the intent to learn, improve, and recognize all of your faults. It's a requirement for learning, no matter how much it stings to do so. It's not fun to take full responsibility for everything that happens in the game. You're going to feel bad for doing this. It's even harder to take responsibility for something that you may have only played a small part in. Without doing so, you are opening the gates for stagnation. Seek enjoyment in your improvement. Always search to find what you did wrong and how you can correct it. Attitude. What sort of attitude do you have in your daily life? Are you genuinely a positive person, or are you more of a pessimist? It's important to understand who you are so that when you do play, you can bring your best to the game. If you're in a bad mood while playing, it's going to affect your gameplay. Sometimes the best thing you can do is step away from the game. If you aren't showing up mentally, then you aren't showing up in the game. Don't play just for the sake of playing. Have a purpose with each session. If it gets to the point where you resent your time playing, you've let it go too far. Attitude is everything. Don't waste your time just going through the motions. It takes a lot of concentration to be able to perform well. Positivity. The more positive you are, the better you'll play. If you are down significantly in a game, never give up. Even if it's mathematically impossible to come back, don't just freely accept the hit to your morale. There have been far greater comebacks than where you'll find yourself most of the times. It's usually not impossible to come back. You can do it. Your team is down 0-5 in Search and Destroy and you're left in a 1v4. Yes, it's extremely difficult and very unlikely you'll win the game, let alone the round. You must try though. Even if you only kill one player, that's better than not killing anyone. Positivity will win you much more games than you realize. Stay positive at all times during a game, especially when you're losing. Be excited to lose. Yes, you heard that right. Be excited to lose. You will learn more from losing one game than you would from winning the next 10 games in a row. You must take every opportunity that you can to learn, whether it's a gunfight, a round, game, series, or getting knocked out of a tournament. Be excited to lose. Acknowledge that you have lost, but don't sit in that sadness and dwell there for too long. Be eager to find out why you lost and what you could have done differently. If you truly do care about getting better, then you should view losing as a source of learning. So be excited to lose. Efficiency. Imagine that you only have 2 hours a day to play, and that's on a good day. How could you maximize your efficiency while not wasting a single minute? Here's what I would recommend. Number 1, warm up for 15% of your time. For a 2-hour session, this would be roughly 15 to 20 minutes. It's easy to ignore this step, but it's the most important. The more time that you have that you intend to play, the more time you should spend warming up. You should go into the warm-up with a plan for what you intend to practice to prevent wasting time. Start by shooting bots with aim assist off to warm up your shot. By shooting bots, you can get more kills in 10 minutes than you could in hours of playing. This is crucial for your muscle memory developing properly. Warming up is not just easing into the game, but for practicing specific techniques. You are able to put yourself in specific situations repeatedly that happen infrequently. Included in this are practicing any nade spots, jump spots, mechanics, and anything else that would be useful within a game. Number 2, play against other people. While shooting bots improves your target acquisition, playing against real people helps with player tendencies. The lower skill the player is, the more random their movement will be. The higher the skill a player is, the more predictable their movement will be. These tendencies will be learned over time through repetition. If you are wanting something quick, jump into a ranked game. Number 3, play with a set team. The skill set of coordinated play with a consistent team is one of the most difficult concepts to learn. I would recommend that you play with familiar players who can communicate their actions in order to master this skill. The level of coordination required between a team versus random teammates is hardly comparable. The amount of chemistry that's built over weeks and months of playing with someone is arguably the most valuable skill that you can have. Just to be able to have some flow as a team requires a lot of initial time playing together. Prioritize playing with a consistent team, over everything else. Number 4, keep yourself warm throughout the night. Shoot bots while you are waiting in your downtime. If you are in a lobby, then shoot the training dummies in the practice range. In between matches and scrims, go and play a ranked game or two. Playing in a private match with your teammates is also a great option. The point is not letting this downtime go to waste. This time adds up and over time will be greatly beneficial for you to improve. There's always time to improve your game. You just need to be efficient in doing so. Every minute you waste is a minute you owe in order to improve. Analyzing your deaths. This is the main source of self-reflection that almost no one does. Even pros struggle to analyze their deaths frequently or correctly. You need to ask yourself a series of questions upon each death. How exactly did you die? Were you in a bad position? Did you path in the wrong direction? What was your timing like? Were there any obvious mechanical errors, cognitive blanks, or blunders that caused your death? The most important question that you must ask yourself is, what could you have done better? This question is where the analysis and problem solving begins. You are trying to work out what the best possible option would have been for you at the time. You take whatever conclusion you have come up with and store it in the back of your mind for later. That situation in which you died may happen again within a few seconds or not for a few months. The accumulation of knowledge is the goal. Analyzing your deaths is how you achieve it. This also happens to be how you will improve the fastest. While analyzing, you'll realize that there are some deaths that just can't be avoided. Occasionally, there are some deaths that nothing can be learned from them. Even with these deaths, it's still valuable to recognize their existence. They give each death a value of how much can be learned. Some deaths are very clear what went wrong and what you need to do to fix them. Others, you can dig through the scenario for multiple options in order to find the most optimal play. Other deaths have very little meaning, and whatever information you gather will have minimal value. You need to get into the habit of looking at them. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and not questioning why you aren't getting different results is just plain stupid. Reviewing your deaths is the biggest counter to inefficiency. Settings. Having the correct settings are incredibly important to playing as optimally as possible. There have been times when I have coached players that simply changed one or two vitally important settings which fixed crucial problems in their gameplay. Roughly 5% of the settings will be personal preference. The rest will be optimal or default settings that you won't change. These 5% of settings, players will have a choice to use for what they find the most comfortable. The remaining 95% are standard settings used for competition that are chosen to be most optimal. Very rarely are there a few settings that make up the 95% that can be adjusted to player preference with minimal cost to efficiency. Controller. Controller layouts have always been thought of as preference. The idea of whatever layout feels right to you is the one that you should use. I'm here to tell you that this is wrong. Your layout is determined by what controller you have. If you have a base PlayStation or Xbox controller, your layout will be different than if you have an advanced controller with back buttons. The amount of back buttons that you have also determines your layout and mapping. Whatever you feel is comfortable may not be optimal. You might need to get uncomfortable first in order to have the most optimal playstyle. Claw. Playing claw is when you curl your right index finger over the 4 face buttons on your controller. The immediate benefit of playing claw is that you can quickly access any of the face buttons as your finger is resting on top of them. This isn't the reason why people play claw though. They do it because they never have to lift their thumb off the right thumbstick in order to press a face button. This allows them to always be able to aim while jumping or crouching. If you are wanting to save money on an advanced controller, then claw is the best option. It does take days or even weeks to get fully used to. There is also a risk for future hand problems. The best possible position is for your index finger on your right hand to curl around the face buttons. It should be able to touch the top, left, and bottom face buttons simultaneously. A slight movement of your index finger and you should be able to touch the right button. Your middle finger will then replace your index finger's responsibility of R1 and R2 or RB and RT. Your thumb will then never leave the right stick. There is also something called double claw. It's exactly what it sounds like. Everything is the exact same as claw, except on your left hand, you are using your index finger to press the D-pad buttons. The only reason this has not gained any sort of popularity is that most important actions are placed on the face buttons. The least important are placed on the D-pad. Most recently, there have been other games besides CODs with abilities or gadgets. These would be important enough to justify assigning them to the D-pad and playing double claw. Here's an example of what playing claw should properly look like. There will be some variation depending on the size of your hand. Xbox. On Xbox, your finger should touch the Y, X, and A button while being able to quickly touch the B button with little to no movement. Shifting pressure from A to B is preferable. PlayStation. On PlayStation, your fingers should touch triangle, square, and cross, or X, while being able to quickly touch circle with little to no movement. Shifting pressure from cross or X to circle is preferable. Advanced controller. If you can afford an advanced controller such as a Battle Beaver, Scuff, or one of the Xbox or PlayStation specific brand controllers, I would highly recommend it. I understand that these controllers are quite expensive. You're going to spend around $200 on a good controller after tax and shipping. How often are you actually playing though? This could be a great investment for your improvement and even your hand health. Playing claw is not a natural position for your hand to be in for hours at a time. For back buttons, you will usually have buttons in pairs of 2. Some controllers only have 2 buttons and others have 4. I personally play on a controller with 6. I would have gotten 8, but currently that's the maximum amount that Battle Beaver allows. Here's a button layout in order of priority based on how many back buttons you have. The first 4 are for the face buttons. This is because it prevents you from having to take your thumb off the thumbstick. The last 2 buttons are for the D-pad. Ideally, you would have 8 buttons in total, with the first 4 being for the face buttons and the last being for the D-pad. Since you can only have 2, though, for the D-pad, you program the buttons to left and up on the D-pad. The reason why your buttons are programmed to the left and up is because they're the furthest buttons from your left thumbstick. Your left thumb doesn't have to travel far for the down and right D-pad buttons. In order of priority for which actions you should have mapped depending on how many buttons you have on your controller, the first is going to be jump, the second is crouch, the third is reload, the fourth is swap weapons, and then the fifth and the sixth would be the left D-pad, the sixth would be the up D-pad, the seventh and the eighth would be the remaining 2 D-pad buttons, which would be your bottom and your right on the D-pad. Thumbstick Extensions. Control Freaks are the most popular brand of thumbstick extensions. They raise the height of your thumb resting on the stick, which gives you a larger range of motion. It doesn't make you more accurate or improve your aim. All it does is give you the ability to have a more precise aim. The higher the stick, the more range of motion you get. This is more valuable on your right stick than on your left stick. I would recommend that you have a shorter thumbstick extension on your left stick and a longer one on your right stick. I have only heard of one person who was against using them, besides a really dumb GameStop employee in 2012. Their argument was that because your sticks are extended, it takes you longer to adjust your aim. He thought using them was counterintuitive for that reason. I won't say his name specifically, but I will say that he was a professional coach who has won a world championship within the past 5 years. What shocked me the most about this is that someone of this caliber could make such a claim without being able to demonstrate their beliefs. They didn't take into account sensitivity speed to adjust for the loss of time it takes to adjust your aim. They also didn't consider that there could be an optimal height where there is a healthy balance between precision and loss of time. Honestly, this is way more than just a debate on thumbstick usage. I'll leave the choice up to you, but if you want my opinion, I recommend it. Default versus tactical. The default control scheme is playing the game with the game's base controls. This is the controller layout that most of the player base uses. Tactical, on the other hand, swaps the crouch button with the melee button. A long debate has been had on which is a better layout. Again, it's based on the type of controller that you have. What you should also be considering in this decision is whether or not you are going to play claw. If you have a base controller and don't play claw, then I would recommend that you play on tactical. This is so that you are able to crouch or go prone while aiming. You don't melee as much as you crouch, so this avoids taking your thumb off the stick as much as possible. I wouldn't ever recommend playing tactical unless you have a base controller and refuse to play claw. It's too much wear and tear on your thumbsticks. Crouching affects your aim negatively since you have to click the thumbstick in. If you have a base controller and play claw, then I would recommend that you play default. If you have an advanced controller with back buttons, I would also recommend using default for the same reasons as claw. Bumper jumper. For bumper jumper, you are using LB on Xbox or L1 on PlayStation to jump instead of the default jump button. Your default jump button is typically replaced with your tactical grenade. If you do not have a controller with paddles or buttons on the back, and you do not play claw, I would recommend that you use bumper jumper. It's extremely popular amongst Halo pros, and its popularity has risen amongst COD players. The main reason that it isn't used is that the advantage of advanced controllers has risen in recent years, while in Halo it's seen more as a traditional button set layout. Call of Duty has more buttons that are equally used, whereas it's not to say the same in Halo. Halo has a larger importance on a smaller number of buttons. It's an overall fine setup to use, I just don't think it's optimal. Bumpers versus triggers. Being able to change your button mapping is a relatively new addition. The concept has been around for decades, but its implementation took longer than it should have. Before, if you had any choice of different button layout, it would be from a few select preset options. Somewhere between having preset options and full customizations came a setting that allowed you to swap the inputs for your bumpers and your triggers. Aiming down sights went from being on the left trigger to swapping with your tactical grenade on the left bumper. Firing your weapon went from being on the right trigger to swapping with your lethal grenade on the right bumper. This removed most of the delay that was caused when using the triggers. Aiming down sights and firing your weapon became instant. This is now the standard amongst most competitive players, and I would recommend that you use it. Preserving your hand health. A quick disclaimer being that I am obviously not a doctor, nor do I have any experience taking proper care of my hands. I'm going to speak strictly from experience. Before I do, I would like to mention that professional players like Zuma have had to have surgery on his hands. Many professionals and players across different games have also had to have surgeries as well. Some have even had to quit playing games in general due to poor health. Whether it be from the hands, eyes, or physical health, gaming is not an activity that's good for your body. Do your best to take care of it, especially if you intend to play for long periods of time. I started playing Claw in 2011. At this time, many people hadn't even heard of Claw yet unless you were familiar with the usage of it in Halo. The person who popularized Claw was arguably the most famous Halo pro in history, Walshy. Advanced controllers like Battle Beaver weren't even on the market yet. Scuff was only then just beginning to show their products at the 2011 MLG Black Ops events. The idea of advanced controllers didn't really exist for the most part. When I was 14, I started playing Claw in order to gain an advantage online. I didn't have money for a Scuff, so this was my only option. I played Claw on Xbox and PlayStation for the next 12 years. After that, I purchased an advanced controller due to hand pain. Even after using it, I still feel pain in my hands and my fingers. The top of my hands and specific fingers have mild shooting pain when I'm playing. It even affects me outside of the game. In my mid-20s, I knew this isn't something that should be happening. I know it's due to my years of playing Claw. With continued use of playing Claw or video games in general, my hands will continue to hurt and deteriorate. I've since focused on taking measures to improve my health and hand health. I would advise anyone to do the same regardless of if you are playing Claw or not. Audio. The settings for audio should be adjusted to be the best settings for headphone users. In-game music should be turned off and sound effects all the way up. Any auditory settings that do not give you a competitive advantage should be turned down or off. Anyone that does should be maxed out. The most important sounds that you are looking for are footsteps and character sounds that can help detect enemy locations. There are other smaller audio settings that should be researched for what's best for you and your setup. Visual. Changing the team and enemy colors to something more vibrant is better for in-game visibility. Something like bright red, pink, purple, yellow, or orange is the best color for the enemy team. Something like bright blue, cyan, lime green are best for teammate colors. The brightness level in-game should be left at default. If you want to adjust the brightness, then do it on your TV or monitor, not in-game. The screen safe area should be brought in as close as possible. This helps with the minimap, kill feed, and any other vital information being closer towards the center of your screen. This results in millisecond save from looking at the edge towards the center of your screen, which does quickly add up. FOV is based on how far away you sit from your screen. If you are very close, then you want a higher FOV than if you were sitting on the couch. A typical FOV is 100 to 110. If you aren't sure, test with 100 and then gradually increase. The higher FOV you have, the easier it is to see people outside of your view. Just remember, the higher you go, the harder it is to see enemies at a long distance. There are many smaller settings such as film grain, intensity, and sharpness that should be researched to find out what is the most optimal settings for you and your setup. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm really glad this is the end of Article 1 of the CoDstitution. The subject matter is not the most interesting, but it's so vitally important for the rest of competitive COD. I would feel like something is missing if I hadn't at least discussed these topics. From here on out, what you'll be seeing regarding the CoDstitution will be over Article 2, which covers the fundamentals. I really think you guys will be very excited for what's about to come. It's going to change the way that you view competitive COD. As always, thank you guys very much for watching. I truly do appreciate it. I would shake your hand and make eye contact if I could.